Welcome back to another episode of The Mess in the Middle. And today, my special guest is Stacey, hailing from California. Today, we're going to get into her story and how she's showing up and how we can serve you today. So, welcome to the show, Stacey. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Audra. I'm excited to be here.
Good, good. So, let's just hop in. Tell me, what are you working on? Where you been? All that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm a holistic business coach. My journey has evolved throughout the years since I've become a coach. I actually started in corporate marketing and got
Okay.
into coaching in 2014. It was 2014 or 2015. It's been a while. And then after I got my coaching certification, I combined the marketing background with the coaching to
Nice,
business coaching. But
nice.
what I'm skipping over is that whole first year where I was trying to figure out my niche. And I was like, maybe I'm a life coach. Maybe I'm a career coach. Maybe I'm a business coach. And I dabbled to explore, which in the end was good for me. I really needed that hands-on
Good,
experience to decide. But yeah, but I've been a business coach since 2016.
good. Now, out of all of them, how do you find if you were to have to launch a coaching business today versus you're back, not the beginning of coaching, but before it really took off to what it is today?
Totally. It's so different. We did not have, I was on Instagram, but there
Mhm.
wasn't this like presence of coach type influencers in social media. It was a different world. And I really started grassroots. I started telling my network, my old coworkers and colleagues and my friends and family.
Yeah.
And now there's so much more of a focus online. And I do think it is good to have both. Like I come
Good.
across a lot of people who are like, I'm going to launch a coaching business. And then they just launch an Instagram account. That is not enough.
Really?
Oh, people often think like Instagram is how I get clients. And I think that's a myth that's been
Interesting.
perpetuated by certain business coaches that teach Instagram.
Of
but
course.
but yeah, I think starting today, I would still be doing some of that in-person, offline
Mhm.
strategy plus the online strategies. And honestly, it's a way more competitive marketplace today. I think if I started today, I would really want to hone in on my niche super specifically and also hone in on, what I think I bring to the table that other people don't. I think we can't just call ourselves life coaches or business coaches anymore. We have
Too
to be more
broad.
specific.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's business coaches who help content creators
Totally.
or something a
Yeah,
little further down the long tail.
totally. And there's a lot of ways to slice and dice it, right? Like I say, I'm a holistic business coach. I had a program that was for introverts and highly sensitive entrepreneurs. You could be a business coach for people just starting out or people further along in their journey, ready to scale. So, yeah, there's so many ways to narrow it down.
And you could probably carve out a pretty decent audience size by even niching down to that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know it's counterintuitive, but niching down, however you want to say it, will give you like the greatest amount of success because it helps you speak to a very specific audience. Otherwise, it's
Right.
just too broad in general.
Maybe I'm one of the early ones. So I started in the online space in 2009.
Mhm.
And back then you had to be a generalist because there
Yeah.
were no specialists back then. Social media was still too new. Websites were just starting to convert, let alone add a call to action or opt ins or anything else. I mean, there was none
Yeah.
of that back then. So being a generalist, I was able to get more business, especially in the early days, because I could talk to each one of the different marketing channels. So
Mhm.
it has definitely served me, but I can see people coming in today how it would be too broad for them.
Yeah, and I think maybe with business, it's a little bit different too. Like, I think if you're
Right.
a life coach, you definitely want to differentiate. Like, who are you a life coach for? Who are you working
Right.
for? But even in business, like you're a generalist, and I'm a generalist in the fact that I've done a lot of marketing
Mhm.
functions.
Mhm.
That's actually a benefit to someone in business because they don't have the budget to hire an Instagram person, or
Ads person or
yeah, exactly, hire a blog manager. They don't have that. So I think the generalist role can still help in a lot of ways, but then you
Okay.
probably niche in other ways, like with your
I do.
audience.
I
Yeah.
do. I call myself more like a team marketer. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I've heard of it
Okay.
before.
Yeah. So for those of you listening that haven't heard that term before, a team marketer is across the top of everything, right? So it could be SEO, it could be content, it could be social media, web design. So you've got quite a broad level of skill, but then the stem of the T is things that you're like expert at. If I rated each one of mine, like web development, I've probably built over 500 websites. So that would be on my long part. Different kinds of things. Strategy is another big one that I do quite a bit of, or consulting. Another big one I do is I'll get people's P&L
Mm,
and we'll go through it, we'll find money. So where
interesting.
funnels not being optimized, where's content, could we get better conversions to turn in the customers they have into making more money for them?
Yeah.
We have like our superpowers of what we've carved out, but we
Mhm.
could still have the broad conversation for a company all the way across the board.
Totally. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really love thinking about it that way, and the fact that your areas where you can go
Mhm.
deep, because that could
Mm.
definitely set you apart.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely served well. So let's talk a little bit about so you're doing coaching
Mm.
and you've been doing this now in this section of coaching. How long have you been doing it?
I have been I think around 2017, I was like, "Okay, I'm
Okay.
gonna focus on newish business owners," and the people I was naturally attracting were people, like, in the wellness field or
Mhm.
other coaches or even spiritual type businesses,
Okay.
because that had been who I was naturally attracting, I just claimed it.
Went with it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it served me well because, like, even niching to that audience, there's a lot of similarities among them.
Yeah. In 2017, there wasn't, which was good.
Yeah.
So getting in and getting at the bottom and building up with that industry. Now,
Right.
how do you find it today?
Today, it's still pretty competitive. Now there are like business coach for life coaches. So there's even a niche within a niche, which can become overwhelming. But I think having that experience for the past few years and having optimized my own website and now having worked with a decent amount of clients, I can rely on more word of mouth and those types of things.
And
But yeah,
results.
yeah, and
Results you've
results.
been able to get people. Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think that's a big place that new coaches run into is they may have the skill, meaning they've gone through a program or gotten certified in somebody else's techniques, but without being able to say, and this is the results I've gotten, that's a little bit tougher to compete in that space.
Totally. Yeah, and results, that's really hard for coaches to speak to
To
generally.
quantify, yeah.
Yeah, because every person is different, but there will usually be like themes or certain types of results your
Mhm,
people are getting, especially if you're niching down.
mhm.
So,
True, true. That's a good point. So let's explore that for a second. So
yeah.
if you're a coach and you're struggling with providing a consistent result that you can hang your hat on to say, this is my program and this is the results my program gets, what would you suggest to people?
Yeah, I would say think about the problems. It might even be one problem, but the 1 to 3 problems you're solving with your thing. And if you're like,
Okay.
"I solve all these problems," I would say, can you choose some problems and really dive deeply into those and focus on the ones that you know you can
Mhm.
address and where you've seen some traction.
Mhm. That's
So it
good. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it might even be like, say you have a general life coaching program, maybe you create one that is like career specific because you've had a lot of clients who are stuck in their careers and you make it all about being stuck in your career and you narrow in on those career specific components. Because then you can say, I help people who are
Mhm.
stuck in their careers. I help them find clarity or new jobs or brush up their skills.
Very good.
So, yeah.
I learned early on, so I'm not sure who said it, but so I'm not taking credit for it, but it was such a great example. They said, when you're trying to build a brand, then it's about this is what my company's known for. But when you're an independent and you are the brand, you have to claim somewhere to start. If you think of Neil Patel, He's the SEO guy. He
Mhm.
does much more than just SEO. His companies generate $100 million a year. So of course they do everything on the back end from a marketing perspective, but he got his claim to fame as an SEO guy.
Mhm.
If you look at Gary Vee was a social media guy and look at where
Right.
he's gone. Each one of us have to stick a stake in the ground and say, this is what I want to be known for. For me,
Totally.
mine is strategy. And
Mhm.
then the other stuff comes along with it, but that's where I hang my hat as to what is that one piece that I can go out, I can prove results. I've got the skills, I've got the experience to be able to tie to that one thing.
Yeah.
And as a coach, I think it's super important for you to find what that one thing is. Maybe you have to start with 3 if you're
Mhm.
new until you can eliminate where you're getting people the best results
Yeah.
and then focus down on just that one. Doesn't
Mhm.
mean you don't do the other stuff. It just means, oh, we go to her because she doesn't gets this result. This guy
Yes.
publishes books. This person maybe let me re-say that. This guy publishes nonfiction books for
Mhm.
this industry. You can niche it down to very specific things like that.
Yeah, I love that idea, and I like how you said, where you're gonna hang your hat. So pick that thing you wanna be known for, knowing that your skills are above and beyond that thing. I
Right.
always tell my clients it's like a dartboard, and you want to aim for the center of the dartboard, and you decide what that center of the dartboard is. And you're gonna attract people who are not just in the middle there, but you need
Right.
to know what the middle is. And it's way easier. Again, it sounds counterintuitive. It's way easier to go for the center and then reach
Spread
beyond
out.
that
Yeah.
versus like start with this broad amorphous, business.
Hoping
Yeah.
somebody that you're passing along the way will stop and talk.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a cool thing about branding too, is like you now get to decide what you want to be known for.
Yeah.
And you do want to do that. So you don't just get labeled as, oh, there's that person that does X, and you don't even want to be known for doing X. That's not your thing.
Yeah. You've got marketing experience. Let's explore a little bit for somebody new. The way that I typically will see it built is I have an idea. So I launch a product or a service. Then I go out and try to find my audience. And then I can't keep up with trying to get out there and build a brand. So really, I'm talking to nobody or I'm
Mhm.
talking to everybody and nobody hears you. And then I go back and realize I don't even know who I'm supposed to be talking to, let alone myself and how I want to show up.
Yeah, that happens
What,
a lot.
so, what would you say to somebody that's going through this?
Yeah, I think the very first thing anyone should do, which is the very first thing that I take my clients through the process of like self-discovery. Like
Good.
regardless of what you think is happening in the marketplace, what is trending on Instagram, what do you really want to do? Right? Like why are you in this business? What is your dream? Like what do you want to be doing in your day-to-day life? So let's get clear on that. And then secondly, start getting clear on your audience and do a ton of customer research and interviews before you even prototype your product. I
Yeah.
really think people skip this step. They just, I have an
So
idea.
often.
Yeah. They say, I have an idea and they create it. And let's just you can create your thing, cool, but let's do some market research to see who are your people? What do they want? How are they talking about what they want? And are they interested in a thing like yours? Or how can you create something that they're actually interested in? Leave-
It's crazy that in 2023, when this podcast is being recorded, it's simpler than it's ever been in probably the history of the world to launch a business, let alone online. Of course, online wasn't around to compare, but the point is it's so easy today, but at the same time, it's like we take for granted that you still have to do the fundamentals. Still
Mhm.
have to I think the story has always been start at test and validate, launch, grow, scale. There's
Mhm.
6 steps you go through. I think there almost needs to be like a double zero
Yeah.
where
I
it's
agree.
figure out who the hell you are
Yes.
and who
Yes.
you're trying to serve because almost everybody that I talk to goes, I'm testing and validating. I talked to a couple friends. They said it was a great idea to launch to I'm trying to automate stuff. Wait a second, nothing's working. Let me go back. Wait, who am I? And I'm trying to
Yeah.
sell you a product I'm not even congruent with. I can't sell it to you because I don't even know who I am and how I'm supposed
Yeah.
to be showing up here.
Or I can't sell it to you because I don't even like it or wanna deliver it. And
How
people do
crazy.
that's
That's
crazy, but
true.
people end up there because they follow what other people are saying, or this person is
Yeah.
doing this program, I should do this. And it's no, you need to check in with yourself. Focus
Yeah.
on something you really want. What is the point of starting a business if you're gonna do something you don't even like? You know what I mean?
I think because some people that get into that position, they're chasing the money first.
Yes, I know.
It's easy. Bob's making $1 million a year. I'm going to go do it. And then you get into it and you hate it. You don't want to do the tech. You don't want to follow through the process. You don't want to put the work in,
Yeah.
and you're not congruent with it because you didn't start it for the right reasons.
Yeah, they're thinking about what is actually marketable, what will succeed, and it's okay. None of us have a crystal ball to know that, but it's not gonna succeed if you don't like what you're doing or you're faking it the whole time.
Yeah, it won't
So,
last because
yeah.
things will get tough. And those reasons that you thought were important enough to start the business are gone. They're diminished.
Yeah, and
And you're
things
like,
will
"What am I doing?"
totally, and things will get tough regardless, like, even when you're doing the thing you love, it will be tough, but y
Mhm.
that's why it's important that's the thing you
That you
love.
love it.
Because you won't give up, and you'll
Right.
find a way.
Have you thought about doing anything else? You're young still, so you've got what,
Um,
almost 10 years in this.
yeah, I don't feel that young. I feel like I would always probably be in the coaching realm. I sometimes think about doing life coaching again on the side
Mhm.
because life and business is so intertwined, and even
Yeah.
when I coach my business clients, life stuff comes all the time, like, especially when you're, like, a solo entrepreneur, like, things like boundaries and saying
Yes.
no or prioritizing yourself or these things come up, and I luckily still get to draw on my life coaching skills there, which is really fun for me.
As we evolve as humans, I don't think you can separate them. You can try to focus on that. I've never done a lot of direct coaching. I've never packaged that up and said, this is what I'm doing. But anytime I've gone in to help a business move from 1 million to 5 million, 5 million to
Mhm.
15 million, the mindset and personality and everything else always comes in it.
Yeah,
I don't get paid for that, but I know that it's a component of it. And a lot of times a business may not be stalled because of business.
totally.
And what do you
Yeah,
say? I'm not going to help you. Of course, you got
right.
to help them.
That's such a good point. It might not be about business, it might not be about strategy, it might be about mindset or how team gets along or
Right.
the underlying
They're
beliefs
just
or
stuck.
yeah, they're just stuck. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't separate them, they just
Mm,
go together, but that's why if you're hiring someone to help you on your business, you wanna make sure they are equipped to
yeah.
help you with those challenges too. Like, whether they have the title or coach or not, they need to be
Yeah.
able to support that.
Yeah. Even if it's just to talk through it. So
Yeah.
I think my advice to coaches listening to this, even if you're a niched coach in one specific thing, be a generalist in some of the other things. And just to be able to add a little bit more value and to help solidify the results that you can get your client. And maybe
Mhm.
you qualify it by saying, look, this is the lane that I play in, but be prepared that occasionally you're going to have to step outside of that to be
Totally.
able to continue to help your client get progress.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And the good news is many of the coach training schools will teach you coaching skills that you can use for anyone.
Right.
Even though I say niche down, you want to be drawing on the skills. There's a
Mhm.
way of asking questions or uncovering blocks,
Mhm.
helping people think through decisions. Like those are some really valuable skills.
Mhm. And that'll serve you across the board,
Yeah,
regardless if you're in coaching or not.
totally. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree.
Yeah. So I got it because I got in so early. I think I found Tony Robbins, maybe I was 23. So
Mhm.
I found him early. My generation, we weren't talking about self help. We weren't that
Yeah.
evolved yet. But I do have a degree in psychology and behavioral science.
Yeah.
And then I got certified as a master practitioner in NLP.
Cool.
So this was all like education. That was really all we had available then. There were no coaches teaching coaching.
Yeah.
We Frankenstein something together to be able to learn enough of it. And I think across all the experience, I'm qualified, but
Yeah.
just a very different way, which gives coaches today even a more of a direct route. Get
Mhm.
in and learn exactly how to deliver results.
Yeah, and it's nice that there are still so many modalities, like NLP is great. Even the different coach schools they teach different ways, and some teach some of the same ways. It's just they're like tools in your toolbox. You're still the person who decides what tool to use, but it's nice to have those tools.
More than just one.
Yeah.
What do you say when you're working with clients and the clients won't do the work? How do you handle that?
That is tricky. I haven't had that a lot, but if I have had like a client show up and they have for a call and they've had homework due and they didn't do it. And if they didn't do it, it's always much deeper than the homework. It's much deeper than I couldn't figure this out. There's probably some underlying beliefs around, can I really do this? Who am I to do this? There
Right.
might be fears around being visible. So that becomes a coaching session in itself. Like, what's
Yeah.
underlying the reason why you're stalled out? Because when someone is just stuck, okay, but why? Let's dig
Mhm.
deeper and figure out why. Rarely is it because they don't want to do it or they don't even have the tools. There's usually a mindset component there.
Yeah.
And that's good for coaching. And yeah, that's also why I give people Voxer access to
Yeah.
me in
Mhm.
between. And I
Mhm.
say, if you are getting stalled out, reach out the moment you're stalled out.
Yeah,
Don't
don't
be
wait.
stuck in this stuck loop for days or
Mm,
weeks. That's not.
that's
And
good.
everyone does. I still feel stuck from time to time, but it's like, how can you explore what's underneath it so you can unstick yourself and even take one small baby step?
So what do you do if you get stuck?
I get really curious. So if I'm stuck, it's usually because I'm looping on something in my
Yeah.
brain.
Oh, sister, every single time.
And sometimes it's a problem of too many ideas for me. I could do
Mhm.
this. I could do this. What about this? What about that? And it's looping. And
Yeah.
one of the first things I try to do is get out of the loop. So I'll do
Mhm.
something to move my body. Like maybe I go for a run or I just go outside or just step away from my computer or I just take some deep breaths or I just breathe. And then I'll try to see meditation is good for this. I'll try to be the observer and see, what's going on. Is there like a need to figure something out? Is there a need to make money? Is there a need to where is the urgency or what's really,
Why am I looping? Yeah.
yeah, why am I looping? That's a big part of it. And I honestly feel like tuning into the body can be really
Mhm.
helpful too I went through a trauma-informed cooking program, which we dived into a lot of somatic experiencing in the
Nice.
body. If you can imagine yourself making a decision and then see how it feels in your body, that can really be really illuminating for you. And I can usually see, okay, is this something that I feel like I should do? Or is this something like, oh, I actually really want to do? And being able to say, "I'm not gonna worry about the shoulds," which is sometimes harder than others. Okay.
The getting in and actually feeling the energy. Sometimes I have to just, like, if I'm looping like that, I have to just close the windows
Oh,
and
interesting.
start with a fresh, because I work online so much,
Yeah. Mhm.
everything, my world evolves around these monitors.
Yeah.
I just have to close the windows and just say, okay, once you get too many open, it's almost like unfinished tasks. And
Yeah.
then it's which one's most important? What do I do now? Wait, that client, I'm delivering this, or what should I do with this? Oh, wait, I was working on and I got to close them like you, go outside, go for a run.
Yeah.
No bike riding right now still. Soon I'll be back on the bike. And that seems to help break that up. The other thing
Right.
I did when I was learning about NLP and the stuff that was going on, I got introduced to Eckhart Tolle stuff.
Okay, yeah.
And he has a book out called The New Earth. It's probably
Mhm.
been out 10, 15 years now. One of the hardest and the best books that I've ever read. First
Mm,
couple times I tried to read it, I couldn't read it. I was just like,
yeah.
blah, 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 blah. Put it back on the shelf. Maybe went back to it a few months later, picked it up, could not even get through the first chapter. And I was
Mhm.
just, could not get my mind in the place to hear what he was saying.
Yeah.
And then it took the third try and I was able to get in it. And then I was ready. I was in a better place that I was open to what he teaches
Mm.
and being able to, because you brought up stepping outside of yourself
Yeah.
and seeing what's going on. That was when I finally learned to be able to step outside of yourself and look at the situation from different eyes and a
Mm.
different perspective. And
Mhm.
man, that has served me so well over the last 10, 15 years or whatever it's been.
Yeah.
Being able to just slow down and not just for myself, but for clients as well. Because our egos immediately, we're solvers, right? Which
Mm.
is we're drivers, we're achievers. So we constantly want to just step in and solve or
Yeah.
push you to help you solve. And sometimes you need to be able to step out of that person and look at it from a different perspective to be able to really appreciate where that person's at and how you can serve them.
Totally. Yeah, I think the idea of quieting our minds, I feel like we don't do enough of that in general. Everyone should probably have more of a
Oh,
practice of doing that. But I totally agree with that. It's like being present, how be present in the moment and not be thinking, what am I going to respond to this client? Just be very present with the client and let things naturally arise.
and let them also share where they're at. Because remember, that may take a couple layers to actually get down to, like you said, what the real problem is. How does it go? What's on the surface? Or if you have a tree that isn't producing fruit, you don't look at the fruit that is there. You have to go
Mm-hmm.
back to the root of the tree
Yeah.
and find out why it's producing what it's producing.
Mhm.
And us as humans is the same thing. What you're seeing is just the symptoms of something else that's actually going on. And until you're able to work with them to dig down to that, they may not even be conscious of what it is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really a gift to be able to be present with a client and help them access
Yeah.
that, those roots, because you're right, a lot of times they're not conscious of them. And we don't know either as a coach, we only can hold this space and ask the questions to support them to get there.
Let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk about how do you find clients today? I know that's a huge thing for coaches. We covered them figure out who they are and who they're going to serve, who that target audience is. How are people finding clients today?
Yeah, I think it depends on the stage of your business too. For me, I still have a variety of ways to find clients. I get clients through SEO since I've optimized my site. I get clients through referrals. And then I get clients through either being a guest on a podcast or being a speaker at a summit. Those
Good.
are probably my main ways.
Okay. Nice.
If
So,
I were a new coach just starting out, I would still use your network and tell people what you're doing and ask them to spread the word. I would also look at communities that are likely to have your ideal client. So they could be online communities like Facebook groups or even actual groups in your community, right? Maybe there's a women's organization or a co working space, but getting, like, actually in front of people can be helpful.
as we led into all this talking about businesses in 2023 and how easy it is to start them online, I think it's important to remind people that offline is still a gig. That
Yeah,
people still network and connect and do business with other humans face to face.
totally, and I think coaching, especially life coaching, well, a lot of coaching,
Mhm.
trust is required and you go deep with the client, and so having an in-person connection can help establish that sense of trust a lot earlier on in the process. And
Great
then
point.
if you're doing something like facilitating an in-person workshop, that's another way you're already building connection and trust. And it can, of course, happen online too, but sometimes it's faster when it's in person.
Hmm. Yeah, you're around each other. You feel the person's energy. You can see their facial expressions and their body language.
Mhm.
Great. I think that's great. And a great place to start to add to that is check out your local community. There's places you could probably volunteer to go in and teach a workshop
Mm.
or the Chamber of Commerce, or depending on where you're located, there's got to be some little kind of entrepreneur center where you could reach out or just go on to Meetup and schedule your
Yeah,
own. Find
right.
somewhere local that could host you and invite people in just for a free session.
Yeah.
That is a great way to get started when you don't know anybody and you're new in the industry.
Totally. I think we all forgot about offline marketing during the pandemic
Mhm.
because there was nothing happening. We couldn't go anywhere. But now people actually want to get out and do things and they want to connect in person. So even if you have to drive to the nearest big city, it might be worth it
Mhm.
for you to have those connections.
Here's the flip side of that. Even if you don't get customers, you get practice. What lands, what doesn't land? What did you talk about? Was there interest in it? That in itself is kind of field testing as to what your program could be about. And who knows where we start and where we end up are typically not the same place.
Right.
Meaning, I swore I was only going to sell this one thing. You may start there, but it will evolve based on what your clients need. If you
Totally.
wanna stay in business, it will.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so being open to that is important too. And even the connections you make, even if it's not a client, it could be someone who
Mhm.
refers you a client. Like you
Correct.
never
Friend of
know.
a friend,
Mm.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, and it's like I said, it's practice. Even if
Right.
nothing comes out of it, it's still worthwhile to do because the better you get at pitching what you do and how you do it, the easier it'll be once you start getting in front of real clients.
Yes, totally. The more you can pitch and just talk about your business, the
Yeah.
better and the easier it will get. And I know that's like a thing no one wants to do at the beginning, but we
It's the
really
most
can't.
important thing,
I know, we really can't avoid it. And the more you do it, the easier it gets.
for sure. So, where do you stand with one-on-one coaching versus group coaching?
I like both. I offer both. I have a group program that opens twice a year, and then I offer one on one coaching year round. So I think it's nice to do both because they're different price points. Some people like learning one on one, some people like a group experience. So I think there's value in both. I did start with one on one. And
You did, okay.
I think it makes sense for a lot of coaches to start with one on one because you don't really have an audience yet, which you do want to be building an audience for group offerings. So it's often easier to start with one on one, get your feet wet, see what the common challenges or desires of your people are, and then maybe create a group program around it.
Okay. So I want to challenge that for a second because I have heard people say it this way. So if I don't have experience, wouldn't I want to do group coaching to start because I can keep the price point lower and I can help more people at once, which will provide me faster results on the other side and validation of my program. What would you say to that?
That's a good question. I think first you want to validate your program before you even sell it. So, you could do a like 20 market research interviews and you create a program that a bunch of people are clamoring for. Yeah, go for it. I think the problem I see is when people start, they have an audience of zero. They don't know who to sell or market to at all. And I think as far as the price point, I would say if you have no experience, start doing one-on-one coaching at a discounted rate. Do it half price. My first few clients were like paying me $75, but it helped me build my confidence, my coaching skills, and it helped me get clients. And then I just raised my price incrementally. So I do think you want to be confident in your coaching. And if that means you even do some pro bono sessions or reduce price sessions, there's no shame in that.
My first clients, I think I paid them. So by the time I worked through the funds that I made and I was trying to learn it, I'm good at sales, but I didn't know how to deliver what
Mm.
I sold. So I had to learn it in real time. I
Yeah,
definitely worked for free and some for those
totally.
first handful. But what that did was that set me up on the next client. And you go from, I think back then it was like $1,500 for social media build out. And then it went to $2,500 and it went to 5 grand and it went up to 10 grand. But it took time to get there. And yeah, those first few, God bless them, they were patient
Yeah,
and supportive, but they also know they got a deal, and I over delivered because I was learning, and so it
totally.
was a win-win for both of us.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it, and just be transparent with people. I'm a new coach. I'm taking
Mhm.
5 clients at this reduced rate to sharpen my coaching skills. Just
Yeah,
be really transparent.
yeah,
And a lot of the good coaching programs, like the one I went to, we had to complete a certain amount of coaching hours before we even got our certification. So we
nice.
had done peer coaching, I had done coaching for free, and that really helps build your confidence as well.
Because it takes it from theory into something practical.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did that with the NLP certification. You would work with other instructors and you would have to perform that task on them to get
Mhm.
those results. And they would also do it on you. And that helped quite a bit. So I
Yeah.
could see it like in the wild on what it was, what to expect, what things come
Right.
up, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, there's no substitute for actual coaching. So do what you have to do to get that experience.
Yeah, worthwhile.
Yeah.
All right. What would be some things that you would suggest to somebody? They've been in business for a little while and they're just not able to hammer out exactly what their program is, meaning they're having to give customized service to
Mhm.
every single person.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would say if they're giving customized service for every single person, I would ask them to think about who is their favorite client that they're working with or have worked with, or their favorite 2 clients. And let's do an ideal client profile of that person. What are they coming to you wanting? How have you served them? What was the program you put together for them? And that can be your template. That's how I started my very first program. I had 2 clients starting with me at the same time. They were at the same stage in business, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna take them both through this framework." And it was a solid framework. I added some things as we went, and then that kind of became the framework for my main program, and then I made sure I was targeting people like those clients. Like, that
Nice.
program wouldn't have worked for someone 10 years of experience in business.
Sure. That's a great piece of advice. So take the ones that you really worked with, that you got the results for, that you've recognized patterns. A lot of this too is pattern
Yes.
recognition. And okay, this person that talks like this, it's typically this, and this is how
Mhm.
we solve that. And get used to paying attention to that, not being so present that you're not taking note of these consistent things that keep showing up.
Yeah, and even for a coaching program, I think it's good to have a framework, but then
Mhm.
allow some flexibility.
Yeah.
One client may need to do step B before step A. One client may not even need step A because they're beyond that, but that's okay. They can still generally follow the framework.
So my first adventure into entrepreneurship was coffee shops.
Oh,
So
cool.
I had a coffee shop and I started hiring employees and I started running into issues with consistency.
Hmm.
This person made it this way, this person made it this way, but I was getting so busy that I wasn't doing all the training. So I
Mm.
would train employee one that had been there the longest, did a great job. Employee one would train employee seven, but stuff was getting lost in translation. And where I had the coffee shops were in my local town where I grew up. So I knew a lot of people, and I would go to the grocery store just to pick up a gallon of milk, and somebody would stop me and say, "Hey, Audra, I was in your coffee shop and so made my drink and it wasn't the same. And this person made it, it wasn't hot enough. And this person, it wasn't sweet enough." And it was becoming an issue at the
Yeah.
gas station, at the grocery store, getting my hair done. And I was just like, something has got to give here. I can't control all these moving pieces. I've got to do something different. And my accountant my first year around in business, he's like, "How's it going?" I'm like, "Man, I'm struggling. I can't figure out this." this was my first business. I didn't know what I
Yeah.
was doing. Hiring people, let alone any of the other responsibilities. And he said, you got to read this book called The E-Myth. Now, Michael Gerber's process has been around forever, but took me a few months to get back to it. Now, mind you, during this coffee shop time, I am a full-time student. I'm taking 12 units and I have 3 kids under the age of 10
Oh,
and I'm a
wow.
single parent.
Wow.
So life was challenging and every minute count.
Mm,
So still couldn't figure it out and didn't stop long enough because I'm a driver. I'll push through it. I'll figure it out. Wasn't figuring it out. And I needed somebody to like wave something in my face and say, look, stop. You're working too hard. You're doing the wrong things at the wrong time. And out of desperation, I think I sat down one night and just, okay, I got to read this stupid book. Got into it and realized that was the answer. And I was like,
mm,
"Oh my gosh, I am like taking 80 steps. And if I would have slowed down and been present and paid attention, I really
yeah.
only needed 4."
Yeah, that's a
So
great lesson.
it
I
was a great lesson.
I think we start and we're like, "I wanna hit 6 figures," and it's okay, but let's be where you are and take
Right.
care of what you
Right.
need to do right now.
And here's the end of that. Sat down, remapped out everything where it didn't matter who trained you because everybody was following it from one book. So
Mm,
you actually had to go out of your way for your drinks to come out wrong.
wow.
So I
Yeah,
managed every single piece of it. 6 months later, I opened my second store.
that's
So
amazing.
I just needed, again, slow down, be present. Somebody else has already done that. We don't
Mhm,
need to recreate the wheel and be, like you said, curious and say, okay, my way's not working. I really don't know what I'm doing. It's
mhm,
not like I have previous experience. I'm siphoning off. I didn't
mhm.
have the experience. I was an employee before that. So just slowing down long enough and saying, okay, somebody's already shown the path here. Who can I ask? Or who can I go learn from? Or what books can I read to fill in the gaps of the pieces that I'm missing? And then momentum my head off again.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good
It's
lesson.
yeah, and you were humble enough to be like, "This isn't working, I need help, who can I ask?" And we all have to do that from time to
Yeah.
time. We've not been in this situation before, so we don't
No.
know.
Well,
Yeah.
and to that point, it doesn't matter if you are just starting out making your first dollar, because I wasn't making much back then, you guys. But I've had clients where they've paid me $40,000 and I'm stuck and I
Mm,
cannot figure out how to solve a problem for them.
yeah,
You have to check your ego at the door because this is not going to serve you and find somebody that is a couple steps ahead that can help light the path for you.
totally. Yeah, I agree. I think we need to take any shame out of the not
Yeah.
knowing.
Asking for help. Yeah.
Yeah, and how could we possibly know? Like, we're one person.
And if you've never done it, where was that information gonna come from?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Osmosis?
Yeah. Divine intervention telling you how
We're
to
not there yet with AI. It
right.
can't download it to our brain to make that happen yet.
Yeah, maybe someday.
Maybe someday. Sooner, probably sooner than we think.
Yeah.
All right, so give us one last tidbit for folks that are pushing through this middle spot. What would be your advice for them?
I would say get when you're in the middle, it sometimes feels like there's so many things pulling you and so many things you could be doing. It's really important to get back to, okay, what do I really want to be doing? You don't have to like scale to a course if you don't want to do that. You don't have to do a group program if you like one-on-one, but get clear on what you want and define maybe one baby step that you can take in that direction.
Good. That's awesome. All
Thank
right.
you.
Stacy, thank you so much for being here. This has been fun.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks so much for having me, Audra.
All right, you guys, until next time, keep moving through the middle.